Morning all and welcome back once again to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a proper old school unboxing and first impressions video because this watch has only just arrived and it goes on sale in a couple of days. The launch discount is 20%. Phoebus watches do or can sell out quite quickly sometimes. In particular, they're more appealing variations, and this does look to be a pretty interesting watch by Phoebus. It's a brand new release. It is, of course, a dive watch. I know a few of you are getting a little bit sick and tired of dive watches these days, but yeah, they are generally, very popular, and so that is why manufacturers like Phoebus tend to focus on dive watches, and it's why channels like this end up focusing quite a bit on dive watches. And when they're new releases like this, yeah, they make for quite interesting review videos, don't they? Or unboxing and first impressions videos in this particular instance. So I've got to say, first impressions are, it's quite small for a Phoebus. Generally, they make 200 or 300 meter water resistant divers. Even their 200 meter divers can be quite chunky at times. And this one feels, yeah, I wouldn't say petite, but it feels quite average, which is, yeah, quite unusual for Phoebus, housing the 9000 series movement. So the date versions have the 9015. This is a no-date version, so there will be the Miyota 9039 inside of here, and that's one of the reasons why this case actually looks quite slim. I'll give you the dimensions in a moment. Of course, I'll run through all the specifications, talk to you about prices, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, let me get the plastic off. I'll be back in a mo. Right, there we go. I've removed all the plastic. I've put some power into the Miyota 9039. No ghost position on the crown, so definitely the 9000 or 9039 movement inside of here. Yeah, it actually looks to be one of their most refined watches so far. And when I saw the pictures, the first thing that popped into my mind a month ago, I think it was roughly when I first saw it, was that's quite normal looking for a Phoebus, because generally they produce quite interesting and, well, strongly designed watches. Yeah, some of their designs can be, well, you either love them or you hate them, don't you? And some of them are a little bit too bold for me, but this is right up my alley. The finishing as well, I talk about it being their most refined watch. The finishing looks to be a little step up from what you would normally expect from Phoebus as well. I don't know if it's because they've just put a very nice polished chamfered edge on the corners of the case look, which wraps around really nicely. I'm not a massive fan actually of lugs that sort of curve like this, but when you've got finishing like this, yeah, it's hard to deny it looks pretty good, and those polished edges are massive, aren't they? And interestingly, the brushing here is vertical, it's not horizontal. So it runs down the case, and the brushing on top is longitudinal, so it runs sort of top to bottom. So the finishing is not your sort of typical standard brushing and polishing. Nice bracelet as well, beads of rice. I've said it many times, I'm not wild about beads of rice bracelets. As you can see, I haven't adjusted the length yet. I'll run through the specifications, then I'll adjust it. I'll pop it on the wrist, and then I'll come back and just summarize once I've actually put the watch on my wrist and worn it. But yeah, the bracelet does feel nice, a little bit of jangle, but you'd expect that from a 7-link. There's 7 links, isn't it? A 7-link bracelet, mix of brushing, polishing, solid everything. Look, double-ended quick release spring bars. I haven't taken the sticker off the case back. Nice clasp, milled. Yeah, we've seen clasps similar to this, haven't we, on the likes of San Martin watches. A few micro adjustments. Yeah, you can just push it in and then or press the button to pull it out. So that's a nice touch. Bezel action. Let's have a little fiddle. Are you ready? Oh. Yeah, it's a bit disappointing. I'll bring it to the mic. Hang on. The clicks aren't crisp. They're not sort of, I don't know, crisp clicks. They're quite muted and sort of thuddy. aren't they? The resistance is a little bit lighter than average, I think. I mean, the clicks are very defined. They feel like very big bumps. Let's have a look at the alignment. One more, I think. Ceramic bezel insert. Yeah, 120 click unidirectional bezel action. I think they're going backwards with their bezel actions. Their PY007C, which I reviewed when I first started reviewing watches. For years, I said that had the best bezel action I had ever experienced. To some people, it's not a big deal, but to me, bezel action is an indication of how seriously a watch brand takes its engineering and its quality and its build quality and all that sort of stuff. If a watch has a nice bezel action, then I think it just gives you a good impression of the rest of the watch and the brand in general. I mean, imagine if Rolex Submariners had shockingly bad bezel actions. People just wouldn't accept it, would they? Yeah, I know this is still relatively affordable. It's under $500. I'll talk about the prices in a moment. But still, yeah, I'd like a slightly better bezel action than this, I think. Yeah, a little bit disappointing. Beautiful dial though, aventurine. There's lots of different colour options available. Very bold chapter ring or rehow on this watch. It's more of a rehow, isn't it? Of course. You've got the 5-minute markers on that look. I like the fact actually you've got a sort of silver ring separating this dark dial with this black ceramic bezel insert. That is nice. It is a beautiful watch, isn't it? And I actually don't mind on this particular one, these sort of rounded lugs. Proportionally, I think they've nailed it. Yeah, it's not too thick. Sapphire crystal AR coating. I'll show you the lume degrading at the end of the video. Screw down case back, screw down crown. Crown action is nice. Yeah, feels very smooth. Winding it in, no issues whatsoever. So yeah, I think they've made probably one of their most appealing dive watches to me anyway thus far. I like it. Right, I'm going to resize it, pop it on the wrist, and then I'll talk to you about prices. Right, here it is then on my roughly average sized wrist. Yeah, very, very comfortable. It does feel like one of their lightest and most discreet dive watches, actually. It doesn't feel top heavy at all. There's quite a bit of weight under your wrist with that milled clasp, and of course there's the on-the-fly adjustment system in there as well, adding a little bit of weight under your wrist. And this is not a thick or heavy dive watch, so for me it's one of their most comfortable dive watches. Yeah, one of their best dive watches I think they've ever made. They have started to downsize some of their watches, haven't they? Their Wavemaster, I recently reviewed a new 39mm version. That was originally a 42mm version. This trend isn't going to be popular with everyone, but yeah, it's popular with me because this is roughly the sort of size dive watch that suits me and I really, really like. I'll show you some macro shots. I've probably already started to show you some macro shots. A couple of things that I noticed while resizing it. Well, the screw pins worked absolutely fine. Beautiful dual facet hands actually, and they reach, well, that minute hand reaches right out to that rehow. It's huge, which is great. All too often we see short stubby hands. A splash of colour on the seconds hand. Beautiful applied indices. Yeah, interesting finish to the bezel. It's coin edge, but only in places. It looks like a sort of pound coin. We have that sort of finishing on some of our coins here in the UK. Yeah, it is a very nicely finished, it feels like a very refined diver. So their day-to-day price for these, it does vary depending on which model you want. The day-to-day price is just under 500 US dollars. I think that's a bit of a stretch. At that price point, there's a lot of options out there housing this higher beat Miyota movement. With the 20% off, it's going to bring the price down to just under $400 roughly, or around $400. I'll put the conversions on the screen for you. I think that should be the day-to-day price. But yeah, at that price, I think it's a fair price, and I think some of the more popular models will sell out pretty quick. Like, subscribe, and maybe even hit the bell notifications icon. Thanks for watching, guys. I do appreciate it.